The lights flickered in the empty corridor of Helio 7 station. Tae-hyun pushed his cleaning cart slowly, listening to the wheels squeak against the metal floor. It was 3 in the morning, station time. Everyone else was sleeping. This was when he liked to work. Quiet, peaceful. Nobody looking at him like he was less important than the dirt he cleaned. He was 34 years old, but he felt older. Space stations did that to people. The artificial air, the recycled water, the fake day and night cycles. Everything felt wrong. Tae-hyun missed Earth. He missed real rain. He missed his daughter's laugh. But Earth was expensive, and his daughter needed things. School, clothes, a future. So he stayed here, mopping floors where aliens walked, earning money he sent home every month. The xenobiology wing was always the worst. Strange smells leaked from the laboratories. Sometimes he heard noises he couldn't identify. The scientists who worked here never spoke to him. They just pointed at messes and walked away. Tae-hyun didn't mind. He preferred silence anyway. He stopped at a sealed door at the end of the hallway. It was marked with alien symbols that glowed red in the darkness. Tae-hyun had worked here for 2 years, and this door had always been sealed. The station computer said it was quarantine storage. Nothing dangerous, they told the cleaning staff, just sealed for safety protocols. But tonight something was different. Tae-hyun heard crying. It was soft at first. He thought maybe he imagined it. The station made strange sounds sometimes. Metal expanding. Air systems humming. But this was different. This sounded like a child. He pressed his ear against the cold door. Yes, definitely crying. Small, frightened sobs that made his chest hurt. It reminded him of when his daughter had nightmares. When she would call for him in the dark. The door's lock panel flickered. Red lights blinked on and off. There had been a power surge earlier that evening. The engineering team said they fixed it, but clearly something was still wrong. The security seal was failing. Tae-hyun looked up and down the corridor. Nobody was there. Security cameras blinked in their usual pattern. His hand moved to his maintenance badge. All janitors had basic override codes for emergencies, in case someone got locked in somewhere, in case of fire or pressure loss. This wasn't an emergency, not technically, but that crying sound pulled at something deep inside him. His daughter was 9 years old. He hadn't seen her in person for 8 months. Video calls weren't the same. She was growing up without him, and every day he felt like more of a ghost in her life. A voice on a screen, a deposit in her mother's bank account. The crying grew louder. Tae-hyun made a decision that would change everything. He pressed his badge against the flickering panel and entered his override code. The lock buzzed, confused by the failing power and the maintenance command. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a hiss of releasing pressure, the door slid open. Cold air rushed out. The chamber beyond was dark except for a few emergency lights near the floor. The crying stopped suddenly, replaced by frightened breathing. Tae-hyun stepped inside. His eyes adjusted slowly to the darkness. The room was mostly empty. Medical equipment lined one wall, all of it powered down. In the center of the room sat a small figure, a child, but not a human child. The little one had pale skin that glowed softly in the darkness like moonlight on water. 4 arms wrapped around a thin body. Large eyes, too large for the small face, stared up at Tae-hyun with terror and something else, hope maybe. The child couldn't have been more than 5 years old, though Tae-hyun had no idea how to judge alien ages. Small and fragile, dressed in a simple white medical gown, alone in the dark. "Hey," Tae-hyun said softly, the way he used to speak to his daughter after nightmares. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The child tilted its head, listening. Then it stood on shaky legs and took a step forward. 2 of its 4 arms reached out toward Tae-hyun. "Father," the child whispered in broken galactic common, the language everyone in space used to communicate. The word was clear despite the accent. Father came back. Tae-hyun froze. His mind raced through possibilities. A mistake. The child was confused. Maybe all humans looked the same to aliens. But the way the child looked at him, with such desperate recognition, such relief. "I'm not your father," Taehyun said gently. "I think you have me confused with someone else." The child shook its head. Tears ran down the glowing cheeks. "Father, they said father would come. They promised." Before Taehyun could respond, alarms began to scream throughout the station. Red lights flooded the corridor outside. The computer's voice echoed everywhere. "Security breach in Xenobiology Wing. Quarantine protocols activated. All personnel report to designated safe zones." The door began to close automatically. Taehyun had maybe 3 seconds to make a choice. Leave the child here in the dark, crying and alone. Go back to his simple life of mops and cleaning solutions. Pretend he never heard anything. Or take the child and face whatever consequences came. He thought of his own daughter, what he would want someone to do if she was alone and scared. Taehyun grabbed the child and ran. The little one clung to him with all 4 arms, surprisingly strong for such a small body. Taehyun burst through the closing door just as it sealed behind him. Heavy boots echoed from around the corner. Security was coming fast. He knew these corridors better than anyone. 2 years of night shifts meant he knew every shortcut, every maintenance tunnel, every place where the cameras had blind spots. Taehyun ducked into a service passage and pulled the child into the darkness just as 3 security officers ran past. The child pressed its face against Taehyun's chest and whispered again, "Father." Taehyun's heart pounded. What had he done? He was a janitor. Nobody important, nobody powerful. Just a man who cleaned floors and sent money home to his daughter. And now he was running from station security with an alien child who called him father. The child's skin glowed brighter when it was frightened, Taehyun noticed. Right now they were lit up like a beacon in the dark passage. He pulled off his work jacket and wrapped it around the small body, dimming the light. "We need to hide," he whispered. "Can you stay quiet?" The child nodded against his chest. "Stay with father." More boots echoed through the corridors. The computer announced a station-wide lockdown. All exits sealed. All personnel to remain in quarters. A description followed. "Human male, maintenance worker, extremely dangerous, has stolen classified material." Stolen classified material. They meant the child. Taehyun crawled through the maintenance tunnel, the child clinging to him like a baby monkey. His mind raced. Who was this child? Why was it locked in a quarantine chamber? Why did it keep calling him father? And most importantly, why did the station authorities consider it classified material instead of a living being? The tunnel opened into the lower oxygen recycling plant. Nobody came down here except during maintenance shifts. Taehyun had cleaned this place 100 times. He knew where to hide. As he settled into a space behind the massive air processors, the child finally relaxed its grip. Those large eyes looked up at him with complete trust. "What's your name?" Taehyun asked. The child blinked. "No name, only number. Subject, 47. Something cold settled in Taehyun's stomach. Subject, not patient, not child. Subject. "Everyone should have a name," he said quietly. He thought of his daughter back on Earth. "How about Yuna? Do you like that name?" The child Yuna smiled for the first time. The glow of her skin brightened with happiness. Yuna, with father. Taehyun held the small alien child and wondered what he had gotten himself into. But looking down at that trusting face, he knew he couldn't have made any other choice. Outside the hiding place, security forces searched. Inside, a janitor and a child who called him father waited in the dark, and both their lives would never be the same. Taehyun watched the door from his hiding spot behind the oxygen processors. 3 hours had passed since the alarm started. His legs were cramping and his back hurt from sitting on the metal floor. Yuna had fallen asleep in his arms, her small body warm against his chest. She glowed softly even in sleep like a nightlight. He needed help. That much was clear. He couldn't hide forever in the recycling plant. Eventually, someone would come for maintenance checks. Eventually, the security teams would search every corner of the station. He was just a janitor. He didn't know how to disappear. But who could he trust? The other janitors barely spoke to him. The scientists ignored him. The security officers saw him as part of the furniture. Taehyun had spent 2 years invisible to everyone on this station. Now he desperately needed someone to see him. He thought about Ji-woo. She was an engineer, one of the few other Koreans on the station. They had shared a few meals in the cafeteria. Nothing deep, just small talk about home, about Earth, about missing real food. She seemed kind. But kind enough to risk her job? Her freedom? Maybe even her life? Taehyun didn't have many options. He carefully laid Yoona down on his jacket and pulled out his communicator. It was a basic model, the kind they gave to maintenance workers. He typed a message to Ji-woo. Need help. Oxygen Plant 3. Please come alone. Trust me. He stared at the message for a long time before hitting send. The moment he did, there was no going back. Either Ji-woo would help, or she would report him. Simple as that. 20 minutes felt like 20 hours. Taehyun held Yoona close, listening to every sound. The hum of machines, the whisper of recycled air, the distant echo of boots on metal floors. Then he heard the door open. Taehyun held his breath. One person or many? Friend or enemy? He couldn't see the entrance from his hiding spot. Footsteps approached, careful and quiet. Taehyun? Ji-woo's voice was barely a whisper. Are you here? Relief flooded through him. Behind the processors. Hurry. Ji-woo appeared around the massive machine, her engineer's uniform dusty from crawling through maintenance passages. She was in her late 20s, smart and practical. Right now, her face showed confusion and concern. What's going on? The whole station is on lockdown. They're saying you stole something from the quarantine labs. They're saying you're dangerous and... She stopped when she saw Yoona. Her eyes went wide. Is that a child? Her name is Yoona, Taehyun said. I found her locked in a sealed chamber. Alone. Crying. They're calling her classified material, but she's just a kid. Ji-woo moved closer, studying Yoona with an engineer's careful eye. Forearms. Bioluminescent skin. I've never seen this species before. What is she? I don't know. But she called me father. Taehyun looked down at the sleeping child. She keeps saying I'm her father. That's impossible. You've never even left the station. How could you have a child with an alien species? I know it's impossible. But she knows me somehow. She recognized me. Ji-woo was quiet for a moment. Then she pulled a small medical scanner from her tool belt. Every engineer carried basic medical equipment in case of accidents. She ran the scanner over Yoona's sleeping form, watching the readout with growing concern. This doesn't make sense, she muttered. According to this scanner, she has human DNA. Quite a lot of it, actually. About 43% human genetic markers. Taehyun felt cold. What does that mean? It means she's a hybrid. Part human, part something else. Ji-woo looked up at him with serious eyes. Taehyun, did you donate genetic material to any research programs? Any medical studies? No, never. I barely go to medical except for my annual checkup. Ji-woo ran another scan, this time comparing Yoona's genetic profile with standard human baselines. The device beeped softly, processing data. When the results appeared, Ji-woo's face went pale. What is it? Taehyun demanded. The human DNA in this child. It's a close match to Korean genetic markers. Very close. And the scanner is suggesting a possible parental link to... She looked at him with shock. To you. 43% shared genetic material with you specifically. The world seemed to tilt. Taehyun looked down at Yoona, at her forearms and glowing skin and alien features. But now he could see other things too. The shape of her face, the curve of her small nose, something around the eyes that seemed familiar. How is that possible? I never gave my DNA to anyone. Maybe not willingly, Ji-woo said grimly. She stood and paced, thinking like the problem solver she was. Do you remember about 3 years ago? There was a shuttle accident. Several people were injured. You were one of them. Taehyun remembered. The transport shuttle from Earth had lost power during docking. He had been thrown against a bulkhead. Broken ribs. Head trauma. They put him in medical cryosleep for 2 weeks while his body healed. I was unconscious for 2 weeks, he said slowly. 2 weeks when they could have done anything. Taken any samples they wanted. Ji-woo's face was angry now. There have been rumors. Whispers among the staff. About secret projects in the restricted labs. Genetic research, things the Coalition doesn't want anyone to know about. What kind of research? The kind that uses people without their permission. The kind that treats living beings as property. She looked at Yuna again. I think this child was created in a lab. I think they used your DNA without your knowledge or consent. And I think they kept her locked up because she's evidence of something very illegal. Taehyun felt sick. Someone had taken parts of him and made a child. A living, breathing child who called him father. Not because of any relationship or choice, but because they had programmed her to recognize his genetic signature. What else does the scanner say? He asked. Jiwoo checked the readings. Her biology is remarkable. Accelerated healing factors. Enhanced muscle density despite her size, and there's something else. Her neural patterns show unusual activity in the empathic centers. She might be able to sense emotions, maybe even share them. As if responding to their conversation, Yuna stirred in Taehyun's arms. Her large eyes opened, looking first at him and then at Jiwoo. The child didn't seem frightened of the stranger. Instead, she reached out one small hand toward Jiwoo. Friend? Yuna asked in her broken galactic common. Father's friend? Jiwoo's expression softened. Yes, little one. I'm a friend, Yuna smiled. Her glow brightened with happiness. Good, father needs friends. Father is scared. Taehyun realized the child was right. He was scared. Terrified, actually. And somehow Yuna could feel it. We need to get you both off this station, Jiwoo said. But that's not going to be easy. Every exit is sealed. Every transport is grounded. And security is searching everywhere. Can you access the station computers? Find out what they're saying about her? Jiwoo pulled out her datapad and connected to the maintenance network. Engineers had higher clearance than janitors. She navigated through security protocols, being careful not to trigger any alerts. After a few minutes, she found classified files marked with the highest restriction levels. There's a project called Chimera, she read. It's a coalition military program. They're trying to create hybrid soldiers by combining human adaptability with alien traits. They've been taking genetic samples from humans on remote stations where nobody asks questions. How many children? Taehyun asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. Jiwoo scrolled through the files. Her face grew more horrified with each line. 47 subjects. All children. All created from stolen human DNA and various alien species. She looked up with tears in her eyes. Yuna is subject 47. She's the only one still alive. They terminated the others as failures. Taehyun held Yuna closer. The child pressed her face against his neck, sensing his emotions. They killed children. They made children and then killed them. And they'll kill Yuna too if they catch her. She's evidence. Proof of their crimes. Jiwoo closed her datapad. We can't let that happen. We? You're helping us? Of course I'm helping you. I'm not going to let them murder a child. Jiwoo managed a small smile. Besides, someone needs to keep you from doing something stupid. You're a janitor, not a spy. Despite everything, Taehyun almost laughed. What do we do? First, we need to move. This plant will be searched soon. I know a place in the environmental systems where we can hide for a while. Then we need to find Haewon. Who's Haewon? A medical officer, human. She works in the main hospital bay. If anyone knows more about Project Chimera, it would be her. Medical staff see things that others don't. They gathered their few belongings. Taehyun wrapped Yuna in his jacket again to dim her glow. The child clung to him with complete trust, her forearms strong around his neck. As they prepared to leave, alarms blared again. The station's computer voice echoed through the corridors. Attention. Fugitive is considered armed and dangerous. Shoot on-site authorization granted. Repeat, shoot on-site authorization granted. Jiwoo and Taehyun looked at each other. The situation had just become much worse. They really want her dead, Jiwoo whispered. Then we'll have to make sure they don't find her, Taehyun replied. They slipped into the maintenance tunnels like ghosts. Behind them, security forces searched. Ahead, somewhere in the massive station, hopefully an ally waited. And in Taehyun's arms, a small child who called him father glowed softly in the dark, trusting him to keep her safe. The environmental systems section of Helios 7 was a maze of pipes, filters, and processing units that kept the station's air breathable. Jiwoo led them through passages so narrow they had to crawl. Yuna clung to Taehyun's back, her forearms wrapped around his shoulders. She was quiet now, seeming to understand they needed silence. They finally reached a small maintenance room tucked behind a water recycling unit. Jiwoo sealed the door and activated a privacy field that would block thermal scanners. For now, they were invisible. We have maybe 2 hours before the next maintenance check, Jiwoo said, checking her schedule. That's when we need to move again. Taehyun set Yuna down gently. The child immediately pressed against his side, unwilling to be far from him. He understood. She had been alone in that dark chamber. Now she had someone who felt like safety, like family. You said we need to find Haewon, Taehyun said. How do we contact her without security tracking us? Jiwoo smiled. Old-fashioned way. We send someone to talk to her in person. She pulled out her communicator and typed a message using an internal maintenance code that wouldn't show up on security channels. I have a friend in environmental control. He owes me a favor. He can deliver a message to the hospital. While they waited for a response, Yuna tugged on Taehyun's sleeve. Hungry, she said simply. Of course. When had the child last eaten? Taehyun had 2 protein bars in his maintenance kit. He offered one to Yuna. Not sure if her alien biology could process human food. She took a small bite, chewed carefully, and then smiled. The glow of her skin brightened with pleasure. Good, she declared, taking another bite. Jiwoo watched with scientific curiosity. Remarkable. Her digestive system must be incredibly adaptable. That's probably the human DNA contribution. Humans can eat almost anything. Is that what makes us useful to them? Taehyun asked bitterly. Our ability to adapt? It's one reason. Humans are also surprisingly tough. You survive in environments that would kill most other species. You heal from injuries that others can't recover from. And you reproduce quickly compared to long-lived alien races. Jiwoo paused. The Coalition has always been nervous about humanity. You're newcomers to the galactic stage, but you're spreading fast. Some species see that as a threat, so they use us as lab rats instead. Some of them, yes. Yuna finished her protein bar and leaned against Taehyun. Father angry, she observed. Feel father's anger. Taehyun looked down at the child. I'm not angry at you, Yuna. I'm angry at the people who hurt you. They hurt others too. Yuna had sisters, brothers, all gone now. The child's voice was matter-of-fact, but her glow dimmed with sadness. Yuna was last. They said Yuna was failure too. Said tomorrow they would make Yuna gone like the others. The casual way she spoke about her own planned execution made Taehyun's blood run cold. You're not a failure. You're a little girl. A person. And nobody is going to make you gone. I promise. Yuna looked up at him with those 2 large eyes. Father promises? I promise. Jiwoo's communicator buzzed softly. She checked the message and nodded. Haewon will meet us. There's a storage room near the hospital that's been decommissioned. She can slip away from her shift in about 40 minutes. Can we trust her? I think so. She's been on the station for 5 years. She's seen things. And she's human. That matters. They waited in tense silence. Yuna dozed off again, exhausted. Taehyun held her and thought about his daughter on Earth. Would he ever see her again? By helping Yuna, he had probably destroyed any chance of going home. But looking at the small child in his arms, he couldn't regret it. Finally, it was time to move. They took different routes through the maintenance tunnels. Jiwoo went first, checking for patrols. Then Taehyun followed with Yuna. The storage room was in the medical section of the station, close to where the accident victims were treated, close to where they had taken his DNA 3 years ago. The storage room was dark and filled with old medical equipment. Haewon was already there, a small flashlight in her hand. She was in her 40s, her face tired and lined with stress. When she saw Yuna, she gasped, Subject 47. They said she was disposed of 2 days ago. She was locked in quarantine, Taehyun said. Alone. They were going to kill her. Haewon moved closer, professional instincts taking over. She examined Yuna with gentle hands. She looks healthy. Better than the others I saw. You saw the other children? Jiwoo asked. Haewon nodded slowly. I'm a medical officer. They called me in 3 times to check on the subjects, to make sure they were stable enough for testing. Her voice was bitter. I told myself I was helping, making sure the children weren't suffering. But I was just making it easier for them to use these kids as experiments. You were threatened, Taehyun guessed. They said if I talked about Project Chimera, I would be charged with treason. My family on Earth would lose their citizenship. My mother needs medical care. They would cut that off. Haewon looked at him with guilty eyes. I stayed quiet to protect my family, and children died because of my silence. How many children did you see? 12, they were kept in separate chambers. Most of them didn't live long. Their bodies rejected the hybrid genetics. They were in pain, confused, scared. HFY wiped her eyes. The scientists didn't care. They just took notes and moved on to the next subject. When a child died, they called it a data point. Yuna stirred in Taehyun's arms. She looked at HFY and reached out one small hand. Sad, you are sad. HFY touched the child's hand gently. Yes, little one. I'm very sad. Why they make us? Yuna asked. Why make us if they want us gone? Nobody had an answer to that. Jiwoo broke the silence. We need to know everything about Project Chimera. If we're going to save Yuna, we need to understand what we're fighting. HFY pulled out a data chip. I copied files. Everything I could access. I've been too afraid to use it, but now... She looked at Yuna. Now I can't stay silent anymore. They connected the data chip to Jiwoo's datapad. The files were extensive. Detailed records of the project going back 5 years. Names of scientists. Lists of humans whose DNA was taken. Genetic profiles of the hybrid children. And most damning of all, orders from high-level coalition officials approving the experiments. This goes all the way to the Coalition Council, Jiwoo breathed. They knew. They approved it. Taehyun read through files about his own case. They had taken more than just DNA. They had mapped his entire genetic code, studied his medical history, even reviewed psychological profiles. They had chosen him specifically because he was alone, isolated with no family on the station to ask questions. They picked people like me on purpose, he said. People nobody would miss. Not just you, HFY said. All the DNA donors were isolated, single, far from home. Most were low-level workers, invisible people. Yuna's file was the most detailed. She was the 47th attempt. The scientists had combined Taehyun's DNA with genetic material from an alien species called the Velm, a race known for their empathic abilities and multiple limbs. The goal was to create soldiers who could sense enemy emotions and had enhanced physical capabilities. But Yuna was supposed to be terminated. The file said she had developed too much emotional intelligence. She was too empathetic, too human. A soldier who could feel the pain of her enemies would be useless, the scientists decided. They were going to kill her because she cares too much, Taehyun said in disbelief. To them, empathy is a flaw, HFY replied. They wanted weapons, not children. Jiwoo was scanning through security reports. There's something else. A coalition battlecruiser is arriving in 6 hours. It has a specialty team on board. Their mission is to clean up all evidence of Project Chimera. What does that mean? Taehyun asked, though he suspected he knew. It means they're going to kill everyone who knows about the project. Scientists, security officers, medical staff. HFY's voice was steady despite the fear in her eyes. And all 3 of us are on the list. The room fell silent. Outside, the station continued its normal routines. People worked, ate, slept. They had no idea that in 6 hours many of them would be dead. We need to warn people, Taehyun said. We need proof first, Jiwoo countered. If we just tell people, they'll think we're crazy. But if we show them evidence, if we broadcast these files station-wide, the moment we do that, security will triangulate our position, HFY warned. We'll have minutes before they find us. Yuna had been quiet through all of this, but now she spoke up. Yuna can help. Yuna can show them. Show them what, little one? Taehyun asked. Show them what I feel. What sisters and brothers felt. Make them understand. The child's glow intensified. Yuna can share memories. Share pain. Make them see. Jiwoo and HFY looked at each other. You mean she can broadcast her empathic abilities? Jiwoo asked. Project her emotions to others? The Velm can do something similar, HFY confirmed. But it's usually only one-to-one contact. If Yuna has enhanced abilities from the hybrid genetics, she might be able to reach multiple people. Maybe even everyone on the station. But that would take a lot of energy, Jiwoo said. It could hurt her. Yuna looked at Taehyun with determination that seemed too old for such a young child. Yuna can do it. For sisters. For brothers. So nobody forgets them. Taehyun held her close. We'll find another way. No other way, Yuna said simply. Father knows. No other way. She was right and he hated it. They could run. They could hide. But eventually the coalition would catch them. The only chance was to expose the truth so loudly that it couldn't be covered up. even if it meant putting this small child in danger one more time. "We do this together," Taehyun said finally. "All of us. We broadcast the files and Yuna shows people what really happened. We make sure the whole galaxy knows what they did." Haewon nodded. "I'm in. I should have done this months ago." Jiwoo took a deep breath. "Well, I always wanted to be famous. Might as well be famous for something important." They began to plan. 4 people in a dark storage room preparing to challenge the most powerful organization in the galaxy. A janitor, an engineer, a doctor, and a child who shouldn't exist. And outside, the coalition battlecruiser got closer with each passing minute. The plan was simple. Simple plans were usually the best, Jiwoo said. She would hack into the station's communication system and broadcast the files about Project Chimera to every screen on Helios 7 and transmit them to Earth. Haewon would make sure the medical data was properly formatted so people could understand what they were seeing, and Taehyun would protect Yuna while she did whatever empathic broadcast she was. Planning simple, except for the part where they could all die. They moved to the central communication hub through maintenance, tunnels that Taehyun knew by heart. Jiwoo carried her engineering tools. Haewon had medical supplies in case someone got hurt. Taehyun had nothing but his determination and a small alien child who trusted him completely. The communication hub was in the station's core, surrounded by security checkpoints. But there was a maintenance entrance that janitors used to clean the server rooms. Nobody paid attention to maintenance entrances. Nobody thought someone could cause trouble from there. The coalition was about to learn that overlooking the janitors was a mistake. They reached the server room without being spotted. Jiwoo immediately went to work connecting her datapad to the main communication array. Her fingers flew over the interface, bypassing security protocols that she had studied for years. "This will take 10 minutes, she said. Maybe 15. The security AI will notice the intrusion after about 8 minutes and try to shut me down. I'll need to fight it the whole time." "Can you win?" Taehyun asked. "I'm a better engineer than whoever programmed this system. So yes, probably, maybe." She flashed a quick smile. "Let's go with yes." Haewon set up a medical monitor and attached sensors to Yuna. "I need to watch her vital signs. If this empathic broadcast is too much for her body, we'll have to stop." Yuna sat quietly, letting Haewon work. The child seemed calm, but Taehyun could feel her fear. It radiated from her like heat. Or maybe he was feeling his own fear. It was hard to tell. "How does this work?" he asked Yuna. "This thing you're going to do?" Yuna shares feelings. Like opening a door in the mind. Others feel what Yuna feels. See what Yuna sees. The child's glow flickered. "It will hurt. Sharing always hurts. But it's good hurt. Like crying when you're sad. The hurt makes the feelings go somewhere." Taehyun knelt down to her level. "You don't have to do this. We can find another way." "No other way, Father. You know this." Yuna knows this. She touched his face with one small hand. Father is scared for Yuna, but Yuna is not scared. Yuna wants to help. "You're braver than I am," Taehyun said quietly. "No. Father is brave too. Father saved Yuna when nobody else cared. That is most brave thing." Jiwoo cursed softly at her station. "Security AI just noticed me. It's trying to lock me out." Her fingers moved faster. Come on. Just give me 5 more minutes." The door to the server room suddenly beeped. Someone was trying to enter. They all froze. "Security override," a mechanical voice announced. "This area is restricted. Evacuate immediately." "They're coming," Haewon said. "We're out of time. I need 2 more minutes." Jiwoo shouted, still working. Taehyun looked around desperately for something to barricade the door. There wasn't much. Some equipment racks. A few chairs. Nothing that would hold back armed security forces for more than a few seconds. Then Yuna stood up, pulling the medical sensors off. She walked toward the door, her forearms spread wide. "No." Taehyun reached for her, but she shook her head. "Yuna helps. Yuna can be strong." Her body began to glow brighter than he had ever seen. The light was almost blinding. The door burst open. 3 security officers rushed in, weapons raised. They were insectoid aliens, their armor clicking as they moved. When they saw Yuna, they aimed directly at her. Subject 47 located. Terminating. But before they could fire, Yuna released her empathic wave. It hit everyone in the room like a physical force. Taehyun gasped as emotions flooded through him. Fear, loneliness, pain. The memories of 46 children who had died in laboratories. The confusion of being created only to be destroyed. The desperate hope that someone would care. The security officers stumbled, overwhelmed by feelings they had never experienced. Empathy was not common among their species. They didn't know how to process the tsunami of emotion from a dying child who just wanted to be loved. One officer dropped his weapon. Another fell to his knees. The third tried to fight it, but tears ran down his insectoid face. Actual tears, got it, Jiwoo shouted. Broadcasting now. Every screen on Helio 7 suddenly showed the files. Scientific reports about Project Chimera, images of the hybrid children, video footage of experiments, lists of names, both the humans whose DNA was stolen and the children who died. Everything laid bare for the entire station to see. And riding along with the data, Yuna's empathic broadcast reached every person within range. Thousands of people suddenly felt what she felt. They experienced her memories. They understood what had been done. On Earth, the transmission arrived at Coalition headquarters. Officials scrambled to shut it down, but it was too late. The data was already spreading across the extranet. News agencies picked it up. Human rights groups downloaded copies. Within minutes, billions of people across dozens of worlds were seeing the truth about Project Chimera. But the cost was high. Yuna collapsed. Her glow flickered and dimmed. Haewon rushed to her side, medical scanner beeping frantically. She's going into shock. Her body can't handle the energy drain. Haewon pulled out emergency medications. I need to stabilize her now. Taehyun gathered Yuna in his arms. The child was barely conscious, her breathing shallow. Stay with me, Yuna, stay with me. Did good? She whispered. Helped father? You did so good. You were so brave. More security forces were coming. Taehyun could hear boots pounding in the corridors. But something had changed. The officers were talking to each other in confused voices. Some were arguing. The empathic broadcast had affected them too. Jiwoo grabbed her datapad. We need to move. The main security force is still coming, but some of the officers are refusing orders. It's chaos out there. They ran, Taehyun carrying Yuna, Haewon trying to treat her while moving, Jiwoo leading them through passages she had mapped from the station schematics. Behind them, the 3 security officers who had first encountered Yuna didn't follow. They stood in the server room, still processing what they had felt. The station's communication system crackled. A new voice spoke, cold and authoritative. This is Director Vrex. The illegal broadcast was a terrorist attack. Do not believe the falsified data. Subject 47 is a dangerous biological weapon. All personnel are ordered to report any sightings. Lethal force is authorized. But other voices responded on open channels. I felt what that child felt. How is that a weapon? Those files looked pretty real to me. My cousin's DNA was on that list. They took her genetic material without permission. This is wrong. We're being asked to kill a child. The station was fracturing. Some people believed the director. Others believed what they had seen and felt. Arguments broke out. A few fights started. The careful order of Helio 7 was breaking down. They reached a docking bay, one of the smaller ones used for maintenance shuttles. Jiwoo overrode the security locks. There's a supply shuttle here. I can get it running. We can escape. Where would we go? Taehyun asked, still holding the unconscious Yuna. They'll track us. They'll find us. Earth, Haewon said. We go to Earth and tell everyone what happened. We show them Yuna. We make it impossible for them to cover this up. Earth is weeks away. Then we go weeks away. Better than staying here to die. The docking bay doors opened, but instead of escape, they found soldiers waiting. A full military team in heavy armor, weapons ready. These weren't station security. These were Coalition Special Forces from the battlecruiser that had just arrived. At the front stood an alien that Taehyun had never seen before. Tall, with silver skin and 6 arms, wearing the insignia of a Coalition commander. His eyes were cold as he looked at Yuna. I am Commander Thel, he announced. I am here to clean up this mess. Give me the hybrid, and the rest of you will be given quick deaths. Refuse, and you will all suffer before you die. Taehyun held Yuna closer. She's not a hybrid. She's not a mess. She's a child. She is a mistake, Commander Thel said. And mistakes must be corrected. Behind the commander, his soldiers waited for orders. But something was wrong. Some of them were looking at Yuna with confused expressions. The empathic broadcast had reached them too. One soldier lowered his weapon slightly. Commander, with respect, are we really going to kill a child? You have your orders, soldier. But sir, I felt what she felt. She's terrified. She's in pain. She's just a little girl. She is a thing created in a laboratory. She has no rights. No protection under coalition law. Commander Thell's voice was harsh. Now follow your orders or join them in death. The soldier hesitated. Others looked at each other, uncertainty on their alien faces. Then Yuna opened her eyes. She looked up at Commander Thell, and despite her weakness, she spoke. Father? Commander Thell froze. What did you say? You are father too. Yuna feels it. Your blood. Your genes. Inside Yuna. The child reached out weakly toward him. Two fathers. One gave strength. One gave heart. Both made Yuna. The commander's silver face showed the first crack of emotion. They used my DNA too? They took from both of you. HFY confirmed, checking her datapad with the genetic files. The Velm DNA in Yuna, that's yours. They must have taken it without your knowledge too. Commander Thell stared at Yuna. At this small creature who was part human and part him. He had come here to destroy evidence, to eliminate a problem, but now he was looking at something else. A child, his child, created without his permission. Locked in darkness, scheduled for termination like garbage. How many? He asked quietly. How many children did they make? 47, Jiwoo said. 46 are dead. Yuna is the only survivor. And the others who were killed, were they my children too? Some of them. The files show they used your genetic material in 13 subjects. Commander Thell stood very still. When he finally spoke, his voice was different. Quieter. I have served the Coalition for 60 years. I have followed every order. I have fought in their wars. And they did this. They took my blood and made children that they murdered. He turned to his soldiers. Lower your weapons, sir? One of them questioned. I said lower your weapons. The commander's voice cracked like thunder. We are not murderers of children. I will not give that order. I will not follow orders that require me to kill an innocent. But Commander, our mission is complete. I have assessed the situation. There is no biological threat here. Only people trying to protect a child from those who would harm her. Commander Thell looked at Taehyun. I may not be able to stop the Coalition, but I will not help them. Not in this. Behind him, the docking bay suddenly filled with more people. Station workers, engineers, medical staff, even some security officers. They had heard the broadcast. They had felt Yuna's emotions, and they had made a choice. They stood between the soldiers and Taehyun's group. You'll have to go through all of us, someone shouted. That child is under our protection now, another voice added. More and more people crowded into the docking bay. Humans and aliens all choosing the same side. The side of a small child who just wanted to live. Commander Thell looked at his soldiers. Then at the crowd. Then at Yuna, who was barely conscious but watching him with those two large eyes. Stand down, he ordered his team. All units stand down. The soldiers lowered their weapons, and for the first time in hours, Taehyun allowed himself to hope. The standoff in the docking bay lasted 7 minutes. 7 minutes where nobody moved, nobody spoke. Everybody just waited to see what would happen next. Then Director Vrex's voice crackled over the communication system, angry and desperate. Commander Thell, what are you doing? Execute your orders immediately. Commander Thell looked at the communication panel. Then, very deliberately, he crushed it under his foot. The sound of breaking metal echoed through the silent bay. I believe I just resigned, he said. The tension broke. Some people laughed nervously, others cried with relief. Taehyun held Yuna closer, feeling her breathing slowly strengthen. HFY's medical treatments were working. The child would survive, but they weren't safe yet. Director Vrex still controlled the station. More forces would come. The Coalition would never let this go unpunished. Jiwoo stepped forward. We need to get this story to Earth properly, not just a data transmission. We need witnesses. We need people who can testify about what happened. I'll go, HFY said immediately. I saw the experiments. I have medical records. I can tell them everything. I'll go too, Jiwoo added. I have all the technical data, the genetic profiles, the orders from Coalition officials. Commander Thell nodded slowly. And I will go as well. A coalition commander speaking against the coalition will carry weight. They cannot simply silence me. What about me? Taehyun asked. What about Yuna? You both need to go to Earth, Haewon said gently. Yuna needs real medical care, not just emergency treatment. And you're her father. The genetic evidence proves it. If anyone tries to take her away, you have legal rights. I'm just a janitor. No, Commander Thel said firmly. You're a man who risked everything to save a child. That makes you more than most soldiers I've served with. They began preparing a shuttle. Jiwoo worked on the engines while other engineers helped. Haewon gathered medical supplies. Commander Thel contacted his most trusted soldiers and explained the situation. Some joined him immediately. Others needed time to think. But none of them tried to stop what was happening. In Taehyun's arms, Yuna stirred and looked up at him. Where are we going, father? Home, Taehyun said. We're going home to Earth. Will Yuna like Earth? I think so. There's real rain there. Real sun. Real wind. Not like the station. Will there be other children? Taehyun thought about his daughter. Yes, there will be other children, including one who I want you to meet. She's your sister. Yuna's glow brightened with happiness. Yuna has a sister? You do now. The shuttle was ready. They loaded supplies, medical equipment, and all the evidence they had gathered. The docking bay had filled with even more station residents. They had formed a human shield, protecting the shuttle from any forces Director Vrex might send. But the security forces didn't come. Later, they would learn that most of the station's security officers had refused to follow orders. Some had even arrested Director Vrex and the scientists responsible for Project Chimera. The empathic broadcast had changed everything. People who had felt Yuna's pain couldn't pretend it didn't matter. As they prepared to leave, Commander Thel approached Taehyun. The tall alien looked down at Yuna, his expression complex. I am not good with children, he said awkwardly. I have served as a soldier my entire life. I do not know how to be a father. Neither did I, Taehyun admitted. But you learn. You make mistakes and you try to do better. Will you let me see her? After everything is settled? I do not want to take her from you. But I would like to know her. Taehyun looked at Yuna. The child reached out one hand toward Commander Thel. Two fathers. Both good. Both love Yuna. You'll always be welcome, Taehyun said. She should know both her fathers. Commander Thel touched Yuna's small hand with one of his large ones. I will make sure the galaxy knows what happened here. I will make sure no more children suffer like this. They boarded the shuttle. Jiwoo took the pilot seat, her hands steady on the controls. Haewon secured the medical bay. Commander Thel and 3 of his soldiers took defensive positions in case anyone tried to stop them, and Taehyun strapped Yuna into a passenger seat, making sure she was safe and comfortable. The docking bay doors opened. Beyond them lay the darkness of space and the long journey to Earth. Ready? Jiwoo asked. Ready, everyone replied. The shuttle launched smoothly, leaving Helios 7 behind. As they pulled away, Taehyun looked back at the station. It looked so small against the vastness of space. Somewhere in there, scientists had committed terrible crimes. But also in there, ordinary people had chosen to do the right thing when it mattered. The journey to Earth took 3 weeks. During that time, the galaxy changed. The broadcast about Project Chimera reached every corner of known space. Some coalition officials tried to deny it. Others tried to claim it was necessary for security. But the evidence was overwhelming, and public opinion was clear. Creating children to use as experiments was wrong. Using people's genetic material without permission was wrong. Killing children because they were failures was wrong. Protests erupted on dozens of worlds. Human governments demanded answers. Alien species who had long dismissed humanity began to see them differently. These humans would risk everything to protect a child who wasn't even fully human. What did that say about their character? The Coalition Council was forced to hold emergency sessions. Several high-ranking officials resigned. Others were arrested. The entire Project Chimera program was exposed and condemned. New laws were passed protecting genetic rights across all species, and in a small shuttle heading toward Earth, a child recovered her strength and learned what it meant to have a family. Tae-hyun told Yuna about Earth, about oceans and mountains, about cities and farms, about his daughter and how excited she would be to have a sister. Yuna listened to everything with fascination, asking hundreds of questions in her improving galactic common. Haewon taught her basic reading and writing. Jiwoo showed her how machines worked. Commander Thel told her stories about different alien species and cultures. All of them were teaching her to be ready for the world she would enter. But mostly, Yuna learned what it meant to be loved, not as an experiment, not as Subject 47, but as Yuna, a child with 2 fathers, several friends, and a future that was hers to choose. When they finally reached Earth, news ships surrounded them. The whole planet had been following their story. They landed at a spaceport near Seoul, where Tae-hyun had lived before going to space. Officials, reporters, and crowds of people waited to meet them, but Tae-hyun only had eyes for one person in the crowd, his daughter, holding his ex-wife's hand, looking nervous and excited. They disembarked from the shuttle. Yuna clung to Tae-hyun's neck, overwhelmed by the crowds and noise. Earth was so different from the quiet station. So much brighter, so much louder, so much more alive. Tae-hyun's daughter pushed through the crowd and stopped a few feet away, staring at Yuna. "Is that her?" she asked shyly. "Yes, this is Yuna, your sister." Tae-hyun knelt down, keeping Yuna close. "Yuna, this is the daughter I told you about. Her name is Bo-ra." Bo-ra stepped closer. She was 9 years old, curious and brave like her father. She looked at Yuna's 4 arms and glowing skin without fear. "You're pretty," she said. "Can I hold your hand?" Yuna hesitated, then reached out. Bo-ra took one of the small hands gently. They looked at each other, 2 children who were now sisters. "Do you want to see my room?" Bo-ra asked. "I have toys, and books, and a really soft bed. Dad says you'll be living with us now." Yuna looked at Tae-hyun. "Living together?" "Like real family." "Like real family," he confirmed. "Forever?" "Forever." Yuna smiled, her glow brightening until she looked like a small star. Yuna would like that. The 2 girls walked together toward the waiting cars, already chatting about Earth things. Tae-hyun watched them go, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Hope. Home. Behind him, Commander Thel spoke quietly. "You saved her. When everyone else said she should die, you saved her. Anyone would have done the same." "No, they wouldn't have. That's why this matters. That's why you matter." The commander looked at the crowd, at the reporters, at the officials waiting to talk to them. "The galaxy will remember what happened here. A janitor who became a hero. A child who changed everything. And humanity showing us what really matters." "What's that?" "That power without compassion is cruelty. That law without justice is tyranny. And that the most important thing anyone can do is protect those who cannot protect themselves." The news that day showed images of a small alien child holding hands with a human girl, both of them smiling. They showed footage of Project Chimera and the children who had died. They showed Commander Thel testifying about coalition crimes. They showed Haewon explaining the medical evidence. They showed Jiwoo presenting the technical data. But mostly they showed Tae-hyun, a simple janitor who had heard a child crying and decided to help. No special training, no political power, no weapons. Just a man who believed that children deserved to be protected. The coalition's reputation never recovered. New governments formed. New laws passed. New protections established, all because one person made one choice in one moment. 6 months later, Tae-hyun stood in his small apartment watching Yuna and Bo-ra play together. They had adapted to each other remarkably well. Yuna still glowed when she was happy, which was most of the time now. Bo-ra had learned to read Yuna's emotions, understanding when her sister needed quiet or comfort. Commander Thel visited every few weeks. He was awkward with children, but he tried. He brought gifts from different worlds and told stories about his travels. Yuna always lit up when he arrived, running to hug him with all 4 arms. Haewon had opened a clinic specializing in hybrid medicine. Other children, created in other illegal programs across the galaxy, were being found and rescued. They needed doctors who understood their unique needs. She worked tirelessly to help them all. Ji Woo had been hired by Earth's government to improve security systems and prevent future abuses. She visited often, bringing technical gadgets that fascinated both girls, and Taehyun had gone back to work. Not as a janitor this time. He worked with refugee organizations, helping displaced people and hybrid children find homes. The pay wasn't great, but he didn't need much. His daughters had everything they needed. They had each other. On this particular evening, Bora was teaching Yuna a Korean children's song. Yuna's pronunciation was terrible, but she sang enthusiastically, her glow pulsing with the rhythm. Bora laughed and corrected her gently. Taehyun's ex-wife had come by to drop off some clothes. She watched the girls play and smiled. "You did good," she told Taehyun. "Not just with Yuna, with all of it. I'm proud of you. I just did what anyone should do. That's what makes it special. You saw something wrong and you fixed it. You saw someone who needed help and you helped them." She touched his arm gently. "You're a good father." To both of them. After she left, Taehyun sat with his daughters and read them a story. It was a simple children's book about a lost bird finding its way home. Yuna curled against one side of him, Bora against the other. They both fell asleep before the story ended. Taehyun looked down at them. One daughter by birth, one by chance and choice. Both equally his. Both equally loved. He thought about the crying he had heard that night on the station. The decision he had made to open that door. Everything that had come after. He wouldn't change any of it. Outside, the real rain he had missed fell on Earth's streets. Real wind blew through real trees. Real stars shone in a real sky. And inside a small apartment, a family that should never have existed slept peacefully, safe and together. The janitor who had saved one child and changed the galaxy pulled a blanket over his daughters and whispered what he wished someone had said to all those other children who didn't survive. "You're home now. You're safe. And you'll always be loved." Yuna stirred in her sleep, glowing softly. In her dreams, she wasn't Subject 47. She wasn't a failed experiment. She wasn't a mistake to be corrected. She was just Yuna, a girl with two fathers, one sister, and a future full of possibilities. And that was enough. That was everything. The story of the human janitor and the crying alien child spread across the galaxy. It became a legend. A reminder. A promise. That compassion matters. That one person can make a difference. That family isn't about biology or origin, but about love and choice. And in the end, that's the most human thing of all.